everyone, my name is Kanika, and today I'm going to be taking you through the basics of cybersecurity and cybersecurity risk management. So, in this video, we are going to be talking about what is cybersecurity and why do we need to protect ourselves, who do we need to protect ourselves from, and how, most importantly, how we can do it. Well, you all might be aware that today we are highly dependent on electronic data. Now, electronic data is nothing but data that we share over the internet, data that is stored virtually in our disks, on our computers, on our clouds, and things like that. So, this data gives us a lot of flexibility and it is very easy to access and it can be accessed from anywhere, but with this comes the price that we have to pay, which is security. Now, we need to understand that all of these risks are a part of the architecture of the internet, which I'm going to be talking about further in the slides. But I need you people to understand that the internet is a place where we have all kinds of guys. We have the good guys and we have the bad guys. And the good guys try hard to keep the internet safe for everyone, and the bad guys just do the opposite. They try to make internet an unsafe place. They try to access people's machines without any authorization, and they try to steal data, they try to steal money, they try to bully people online, and we have to understand how we can fight them, because if all of us take responsibility for protecting our own data, then these bad guys are never going to be able to fulfill what they want to do. So let's continue into it and see what all we are going to learn today. I hope all of you are excited, and let's see what we have. So, brief introduction about myself. My name is Kanika and I am a software engineer. And I have been working in the field of cybersecurity for the past year. And I finished my graduation in August 2020. So, I am the 2020 batch. And yeah, it was pretty difficult given the times, but hey, the internet has given us the flexibility nowadays. So I took my exams and I finished them well, and so here I am. Now, what interested me to get into the field of cybersecurity was my everlasting dream of fighting bad guys. Now, I am not the most physical of them all, and I could not battle them one to one like Tony Stark and Thor and Captain America, but I could fight them with my brain. So you can fight these bad guys with the brain power, and today we are going to learn on how we can take measures to protect ourselves from them and how we can protect our data and all the information that we share with people or store online. So, till now, I've been saying a lot about cybersecurity, this and cybersecurity that, but you might be asking yourself what cybersecurity actually means. Now, if I had to explain it to you very simply, cybersecurity is very similar to what security measures you follow in your day to day life to protect yourselves from physical intruders, like from a robbery or from a mugging. So how do you protect yourselves? If you have your house, you will have CCTVs installed on your doors to see who's coming to your house, and you have all these different types of locks and access control to places, and all of these things protect those places physically from any intruder. And when you're talking about cybersecurity, it's similar to what we do in the physical world, but we do it virtually. So, like how you take measures to protect yourself physically in the world, you are going to take some measures to protect yourself virtually. So, you're going to take measures to protect your data, your information, and everything else that is stored on your computer. So, you're going to take measures to protect your computer, and that is cybersecurity. Now, what is a computer? Now, when you talk about computers, the first thing that might come to your head might be a normal personal computer that most of you people must be using at your house. I'm sure most of the people who are looking at this video right now might be accessing it from their personal computer or maybe their phones or their laptops and tablets. But the computers are not limited to only these things. You need to understand that any programmable device which can store, retrieve, or process data is a computer. And if there is something happening with the data, there is a very huge chance that that data can be stolen. So the category of computers is very broad. So you can have your smart devices, your home assistants, supercomputers, you have consoles, you have toys which are connected to the internet, you might have smart TVs, and you might have tablets. Now, these are a few of the computers that we see around us, a few of the things that can be hacked or stolen things from. But apart from these, there are many more computers that we have. And when we talk about cybersecurity, we just don't mean protecting your personal computer, we mean protecting all of these devices from intrusion. Now, the first thing you need to understand when you are talking about cybersecurity is how can an attack happen? Now, an attack can happen because all of us are connected, right? Now, if a device is not connected to the internet or there is no way somebody can access it, it is less likely that it might get virtually attacked. Somebody could physically run away with your laptop. But if it is not connected to any network, people might not be easily able to access it virtually. So all of these things, all of these security issues arise when a device is connected to a network. Now you might be thinking what a computer network is, right? So what a computer network is simply a collection of devices which are connected to each other so that they can communicate with each other. So you can share information, you can share data amongst yourself, and you can share a lot of things amongst yourself because you're connected to a network. Now the biggest network that is there on the planet is the internet. Everything around us is connected to the internet, and this is going to just keep increasing as we are going to move forward into the new decade. So let's talk a more let's talk a little bit more about the internet network and how it actually works. So when you're talking about the network, you can divide it into these basic parts. Okay, so you have routers, you have switches, and then you have the devices. Now you can compare a internet network or any kind of computer network to the nervous system that we have. Now, the nervous system that we have three major components to it. So we have the brain, we have the spinal cord, and we have the nerve endings. Now, the brain is responsible for taking the decisions. It knows what needs to go where and which decision needs to be taken for which limb. And the spinal cord is responsible for transmitting these decisions that the brain has taken to the different limbs. Now, if I want to raise my hand, the decision is made inside my head, and then my spinal cord sends the message to my hand that, hey, you need to put yourself up. Similarly, you have the computer network. Now, the router here is like your brain. Okay, so like your brain is the router. The router is going to be capable of understanding and differentiating between all of these devices and knowing which device wants to communicate with which. Okay, then you have the spinal cord. The spinal cord is something like the switch. Now the switch has a lot of ports in it, and you can connect different devices to these ports, and each port is going to be given for one particular device. The router is going to know which port is for which device. Nowadays you have wireless routers and switches too. So like your phone is connected to your router right now via Wi-Fi. That's another way that you can connect to a network. But this is a wired network. And then via the switch, all of these devices are going to be connected to each other. Now this router might be connected to an internet service provider, an ISP. Now what is an ISP? It can be any company that provides you with the internet, right? The company whose router you're using. Like in my house, I use Airtel. Now Airtel is my internet service provider, and I use their router. So they are the people who are responsible for connecting me to the internet. And then via my router, I have my laptop connected to the internet, I have my phone connected to the internet, and I have many other devices which are connected to the internet. Now, this is how a basic network works. So, the router is responsible for taking the decision. It knows which device is present where. And how does it know it? It knows it via the IP addresses. Now, IP addresses, as the name suggests, are simply addresses that are given to a particular device. Now, that device is going to be identified with that address. Like, for example, if we were playing a game of tag, and somebody told you that I want you to go and tell this to Kanika, then you know me by my name. My name associates me into the game to everyone else, right? So if you say Kanika, then you know who you want to go to, right? So the router knows the message needs to go where using those IP addresses, okay? So moving forward, we are going to see how different types of networks are there. Now, this is an example of a computer network at home, a typical home network. Now, you can see, as I told you, this is the internet service provider. This is your router, and these are the different devices which are connected to the internet, right? So you can see there are two wireless devices connected to the router and four devices which are connected via the cable. Now, if you notice, there are something written down, these numbers like 192.168.0.1. Now, this is the IP address. You see here, it's 192.168.0.101. Then again, it's the same thing, 104, then 11, then 10, then 100, then 102. Now, these are all different IP addresses, and the router knows it's communicating to which device at a particular given time because of these IP addresses. The next type of network is a typical retail business network. Now, for example, you are aware of many sites that are present online which have physical stores also. Consider the example of maybe Walmart. Now, Walmart has physical stores which are present throughout the country, plus it has online stores from where you can buy. Now, all of these stores are going to be selling the same kind of items. So, they are going to have something like an inventory in which they are going to have all the data about the items that they sell and their prices. Now, all of this inventory is going to be connected to an online store, the warehouse, the retail stores that are there, and anyone else who's responsible for taking care of the inventory. Now, what it's going to be helpful for is that everybody is going to have the same kind of data throughout. So if somebody buys something from the online store or something from the retail store, it's going to be all synced to the internet cloud here. And the headquarters server is always going to have information about what are the kinds of purchases and what is the purchase of which item which is being made at any different kind of store. The next type of network again is an example of a typical retail business network. So if you see here, you have these retail stores, all right, like all of these retail stores here. But what is there inside them? Okay, so in the retail store, there might be many billing sections. There might be a back office system which keeps track of the inventory of that particular store. Like, okay, we have these many toothpastes or these many snacks or these many water bottles and all of those things in this particular store. So if something is running out, they can make their call to the warehouse and get themselves equipped again. So they are going to have a back office system for taking care of that. Now, this back office system might not just take care of the records of the things that they sell. It might also be the employees who are working there and things like that, like, the employees who are working there, the facility, the place, and all of those things. So you'll have billing sections and you'll have the store database, the back office system, and all of these systems are going to be connected by the internet to the main office. So they know what's happening in every store. Now, another example of a computer network is this. So, a school might have three types of branches in a city, right? It might have an high school, a middle school, and an elementary school, and you might have the district office. Now, if you want to connect all of these together, you can connect them using a metropolitan area network. Now, OSPF is just a protocol that we use on the internet so that all the conversations that are happening with the standard, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later when we talk about the internet. But you are going to connect all of these schools to this network, and then it's going to be connected to the district office. So everybody is going to be in sync and everybody is going to have the same information with them, and it's going to be easy for them to maybe share student records across, or if somebody is transferring from elementary to middle school, they can simply send the data to the middle school via this network, and they don't have to take the data again from the user. So this is another type of a computer network. Now we are going to talk about the internet. Now, the internet, as I told you, is the biggest network on the world, and most of the devices are connected to the internet. Now, internet initially started as ARPANET. Now, what was ARPANET was simply a defense project that people were working on to make the connection between different uh, offices in the United States to each other in such a way that they could survive a nuclear attack. So, if any one of the places was nuked, the whole system should not be disrupted. Earlier, how networks used to work was there used to be a server, and all of the devices used to be just connected with that one server. And what that used to do is that if this server goes down, then there is no way that they are going to be able to maintain that network. So they thought, what about we make a mesh, a cluster of servers which are connected to different kinds of devices, and all of these are going to be in sync. So even if some of them go down, the rest of them are going to share the load and work properly. And it worked. And so the internet was born. Then we started accessing things online, and now we know the power of the internet. There's nothing that you want that you cannot get on it, from information to data that you might need, watching videos, streaming movies. Internet has just helped bringing all of us together. So that is about the internet. Now, the closeness that the internet has provided us brings us with a lot of risk, because there are good guys who are connected to the internet and they are just going to do what they are supposed to do in the internet and go their own way. But then there are bad guys too who are connected to the same network, and they are going to utilize the power that this network holds to do bad things like stealing data, bullying people, just anything. We are going to learn about these bad guys more in detail in the coming sections, but keep an eye out for that. So the next thing that we need to learn about is this live internet threat map. Now I will show you this threat map. You can also go and look at this threat map on your own, but this is a threat map. Now what is a threat map? Is simply a map that is going to tell you what are the kind of attacks that are happening right now in the world. Now, how does this threat map work? Now consider these bad guys on the internet, mostly hackers, to be like giant rats, like rats. Now, if you want to catch them, you need a mouse trap and a little bit of cheese. Now, how these threat maps work is they make something called as honeypots all across the globe, and these honeypots are nothing but a cluster of computers which behave like, have applications installed on them which are common targets for the hackers. Now when the hacker thinks that they are targeting these applications and trying to hack into them, get unauthorized access into them, what is happening is these threat maps catch their IP, they catch their toolkit information, and then they map it here on the map. So if you look at this map, take some time, look at it, pause the video, go look at the threat map yourself. You can find it on threatmap.checkpoint.com, and pause the video and for a minute just look at it and come back, and then I will tell you about what this threat map is about. So this threat map is simply about the attacks happening right now. If you can see the color of these attacks, it just looks like laser tag happening between these different snowmans across the globe. And these snowmans, because it's Christmas, so it looks like it's happening like that. But what it actually means is that the red lines that you see right now, can you see these red lines are malware attacks, and the white ones, which are not very common if you notice, are called the phishing attacks, and the yellow ones are called exploit attacks. Now, what is happening here is that you can see a lot of information is there on the screen. What you right now need to understand, one thing that you can very easily guess from this is that phishing attacks are not that common. We are going to learn about these different types of attacks very soon, but phishing attacks are not very common. Most of the attacks that you see happening are either red colored or are yellow colored. So one thing out of the map, like just by looking you can tell, is that these kind of attacks are very prominent right now. So the threat map provides a lot of information for someone who is in the field of cybersecurity. This information can give them a lot of knowledge. They can mine a lot out of this information and use it to maybe determine the pattern of attacks that can happen and protect themselves. But first off, if you look at it, this is at least something that you can make out. What kind of attacks are very prominent? Now, this is one threat map that we have. There are a lot of different types of threat map. Another example of a threat map is this one. This is the Kaspersky threat map. Now, this is a little more fancy and you can see there are more laser tags happening here, and it has a broader division of the types of attacks that are happening. So here you can see these cyan color ones are botnet attacks, and then the other attacks that you see happening throughout the globe, these are all the cyber attacks that are taking care right now. So you can go to the Kaspersky website as well and look at their threat maps, and you can look at many other threat maps online on the internet, and maybe you can learn how to read them, learn what you can get out of these threat maps, and have fun with it. We are going to move on to the next thing that we have. So after the threat map, let's study about what's at risk. So when we're talking about protecting ourselves on the internet and protecting our data from the bad guys, what why do we need to protect it? What will happen if our data is leaked, right? Now, for understanding this, you need to understand that nowadays everything is connected to the internet. You have your houses, smart houses, which you can manage using your mobile applications nowadays. You have shops, like I told you, the retail networks. You have cars which are self-driven nowadays. You have factories which have robots which are totally automated and work on their own. You have hospitals in which lakhs and lakhs of records of patients are stored and which are managed, devices in the hospital are managed by the network, and everything is connected to each other. You have banks, you have traffic lights which are nowadays managed by the network. You have airplanes and airports which are managed, and basically everything in this world is connected to the internet. So even if one thing is compromised, there is a high possibility that it is going to cause damage in the physical world. If somebody accesses your home network, what could happen? They could hack into your accounts, take in all your personal data, or if they hack into your personal security network at home, they could easily come inside your house. They could disable your CCTV cameras and they could disable all your locks and come inside your house. What would happen if somebody hacks into a bank system? They could steal all the money. And what would happen if somebody hacks into a hospital? They could shut down the whole hospital. They could disrupt their electricity. They could disrupt their water supply. They could release all the patient records that are there, and that could be very catastrophic. So why we need to protect ourselves on the internet and why we need to protect all the things that are connected on a network is because the damage that happens can have a physical impact in the real world. So what is at risk? Everything is at risk because everything nowadays is connected to the internet. Now, we are going to talk about what is a cyber risk. Now, a cyber risk comprises of three things. You have threats, you have vulnerability, and you have consequences. They all make up to a cyber risk. Now, what is a threat? Threat is the who, the why, and how of the cyber attack. So, who would want to attack your system? They are a threat to you. The reason they would want to attack it also is a threat to you. Imagine you are a retail businessman. The threat to you, who would be your competitor. Your competitor would want to compromise your website so that people are able to order from his rather than yours. How would he do it? Maybe he could hack just hire a hacker or hire someone to do it for him. And why would he do it? Because he wants to make more profit than you. Now, the vulnerabilities are the flaws that you have in your system that are going to cause these cyber attacks to happen. Now, the vulnerabilities could be people, it could be technology, it could be processes. Then you have the consequences. What is going to happen if your system is attacked? You could have data breach, you could have financial loss, and many, many more things happen to your system if it is attacked. All of these comprise of a cyber risk. The next thing we are going to study about is who in the cyber threat. Now, types of cyber threat sources are like hackers and script kiddies. These people are mostly people who just enjoy in breaking things. They enjoy the power they feel when they break into a system. They enjoy finding out these vulnerabilities and using them for their benefits. Now, hackers are also of two types, which we are going to discuss later. The next type of people you have are botnet operators. Now, what is a botnet? A botnet is simply a network of infected computers. Now, infected computers in the sense zombie computers, you call them that also. Now, what happens is some person gets unauthorized access to some computer devices. He forms a network within those computer devices and uses them to perform various kind of attacks on other people. Now, these botnets or these devices are simply infected devices and they follow this hacker's command. So whoever is the botnet operator, he can simply command them to attack something else. That way, it's very difficult to reach to him because the attack is always going to happen from where? The computer systems which are infected. So a botnet is basically a huge cluster of infected computers in a network of infected computers which can be used for attacking any other system. Then you have cryptojackers. Cryptojackers are simply people who use other people's devices to mine for cryptocurrency. You have cyber stalkers and bully, phishers, spammers, hacktivists, cyber criminals, employees who are not happy with their company, terrorists, and obviously the government is always watching us. So these are the different kinds of who in the cyber threat. Now, how can they launch an attack to you? They can use malwares to launch an attack on you. Now, malwares are simply computer programs which are written with the purpose of harming someone else's computer. Now, these programs are written in a way that they are going to do harm to other people. They can use phishing. Now, what is phishing? As the name suggests, it's simply using a bait to lure someone inside and make them give away their information. We are going to talk more about phishing later. Now, you can have distributed denial of service attack. Now, when I was talking about the retail business, if your opponent wanted to attack your system, he could launch a DDoS attack on you. Now, what would happen is somebody could use like a botnet uh, cluster to attack you. Now, what would happen is, for example, there's a website. When you are trying to access a website, all your requests go to a server. The server processes your request and then he sends back the information to you on whatever you wanted. So if you want to go to a web page, the request to get the web page is going to go to that server. Then the server is going to return that web page back to you. Now what happens is a server can only process so many requests. Imagine if a server can make 500 requests in 1 minute. So if there is any more requests made more than 500, the server is going to just say that I can't process your request right now. The user might face delay. It might keep loading, and he might face delay. Or the server might simply send a message saying that I am too busy handling requests right now and I cannot like take your request right now. Now, what do these botnet operators do? First, they infect so many computers and make a botnet network. Then they use this network, each device in this network, to continuously send requests to that server. Now the server does not know if it is coming from a botnet or it's coming from a real customer. So he is still going to process all of these requests. And while the server is going to be busy processing the requests from these botnet operators, he is going to miss out on actual customers who are trying to enter the website, and that is going to cause a lot of loss in business. So that is denial of service, distributed denial of service. Now, man in the middle attack is also very simple. What you need to understand is, imagine there is a user Alice and then there is a user Bob, and they are trying to communicate with each other. There is a hacker or a bad guy who's going to sit in between called Charlie. Now, Alice wants to send a message to Bob, but Alice is going to send a message to Charlie, and Charlie is going to send it to Bob. Now, Bob thinks the message came from Alice, and when he's replying back, he thinks he's replying back to Alice. But what's actually happening is Alice and Bob, both of them are talking to the same person, Charlie. And now this person, Charlie, is aware of all of their conversations. If you want to protect yourself from such kind of attacks, we use something called as digital signatures or secrets, keys that only Alice and Bob know. So if I'm sending over a gift to Bob, I'm going to lock it with a key and I'm going to only send the gift. Now, Bob has the key, but Charlie does not have the key. So Bob can open it, but Charlie is going to be left in the middle. So that is man in the middle attack. And botnets I have already discussed. They are just infected zombie computers which can be used to launch various kind of cyber attacks on people. Now these are the different kinds of malwares. Now adware and keylogger are very similar. Adware and okay, so adware is the kind of software that is, you know, it can be used like if you're trying to access a website, there's going to be this advertisement that pops up which is going to just promise you unrealistic things that you know might not be possible, but you're still going to be interested to look into, and the moment you click on them, they are going to launch an attack on you. Now spyware and keylogger are very similar in the sense that they monitor your device without your knowledge. So you can have these spywares or keyloggers installed by someone else on your computer, maybe someone who's hacked it, and they are going to log all the information that you are sending, receiving, or things that are happening on your computers and send it over to maybe some other device. The only difference between a spyware and a keylogger is that the spyware is capable of looking into your files, looking into your conversations, your emails, your attachments as well. Whereas a keylogger only logs the keys that you type on the keyboard. But even that data of the keys that you type on the keyboard can be used for mining out your passwords for different websites or different things that you're accessing virtually. Now, viruses and worms are also very similar to each other. They just have one key different. Both of them replicate in your system and try to infect it. But what viruses do is they corrupt your pre-existing files as well. They're going to replicate into those files and corrupt them. So you are going to lose all your data. But what worms do is they replicate in the active memory. So your computer is going to go out of memory and you're not going to be able to perform any processes on it. That is about worms and viruses. Now, ransomware and scareware are also very similar to each other. Now, ransomware and scareware are usually used for extracting something out of the user. In ransomware, what they do is they might encrypt your whole system and they are going to make you panic. They're going to be like, we have encrypted your system, we have taken control over it, and if you want to get all your data back, then you have to give us so much money. In scareware, what they do is they usually pop a message of a attack that could happen on you. They'll be like, your system is going to, a malware is detected on your system, or your system is going to be attacked, or this is the CIA and we are trying to access your computer because we have found some illegal activity on it, and you have to do so and so, only then we are going to release your system back. So that is how a scareware works. And the last but not the least is a Trojan horse. Now, your activity, your task after watching this video is to find out the story of the actual Trojan horse. But what a Trojan horse actually is, it's simply something that looks very harmless. Maybe a file name like notavirus.exe. It is going to pretend to look something so simple in your account, in your device, that you're never even going to give two thoughts that it could be a malware. But once you execute it, it's going to just crash your whole system and take over. So those are Trojan horses. You have attack techniques. I have already talked about man in the middle and zombie or bot, which is our botnet. Phishing emails or websites. In phishing, I told you, they send a bait to you, and you're going to fall into it without realizing that you are falling for a phishing attack. Just like how you wait for a fish to come in your hook when you attach a bait in it, they're going to do something similar. They're going to tell you that, oh my god, go to this website, claim your prize, so and so, and you're going to go to that website and enter your details. But they are not going to give you anything else. They are just going to store your detail and then use it to hack into your accounts. The drive-by downloads are basically sites which are just, you can simply infect your device by visiting these sites. So if you visit these sites, some XML script might run in the background, and you might just simply corrupt your device by visiting them. Water holes are similar to drive-by downloads, but instead of a site which you cannot trust at all, water holes are present on sites which you can really trust. Sites which are legitimate, but they have these small things that the hackers add to it, which can cause damage to your computer. Now, catfish are simply people who are using fake accounts on the internet to extract information out of you. Now, they can use their account for many things, so you should always be aware of catfishes. They are going to pretend to be someone else, and they are going to access you emotionally. They are going to invest you emotionally into something and then extort things out of you. Maybe money, maybe something else, maybe force you to give out your information. So always kids, always be aware of catfishes. Do not let yourself fall for the catfishes. Do not share your personal information with anyone on the internet. Do not share anything with anyone on the internet that you have never met and that you do not know or are sure about. Always be aware of catfishes. The next thing is phishing. So now we are going to talk about phishing in detail. Now, phishing is basically bait. So what these hackers or what these bad guys are going to do is they are going to try and replicate the website that you trust. The recent phishing attack that has been going on with Facebook. So this is the phishing attack that has been going on recently. Now, is this you video scam that steals your login info? Now, what happens is you get a message saying, is this you? Watch the video here. As soon as you click on the watch the video link, this page is open. Now, can you pause the video for a minute and tell me why this page is not Facebook? So if you notice here, this is not the URL that Facebook uses. Next time when you try visiting Facebook, look at the URL that Facebook uses. So one red flag is this. This is not the URL. What happens if you try and access your account from this page is that you'll give your email and you'll give your phone number, and as soon as you click on login, they are going to steal your login information, and then they can do anything with it. They can change your password and use your account for doing multiple things. Now they could either use it for just stealing your data, or they could use it for like hacktivists. They use the internet to promote their thoughts, what ideologies they believe in. So maybe they could use your account to post things that you might not normally post, and many other things. They can use your account for that. So for accessing many different websites, they ask for your Facebook credentials. So they could even log into some illegal websites using your Facebook credentials, and they could do a lot of things with it. And by the time you're going to be able to recover your account, a lot of harm would already be done. So this is the recent phishing attack that was happening. What you need to understand and how you need to be aware of a phishing attack is, look for these red flags. Look for these red flags and always try to be sure that whatever information you're going to be giving, like whenever you're giving some personal information out to someone, some information that is very like your passwords or your login for any kind of website, whenever you have to give such information to someone, always make sure that you check for these red flags. See if the website URL is legitimate. That is the first way to catch a phishing website. They always have a wrong URL. Always have a wrong URL. They might have tampered with the logo, they might not have the right logo, they might not have the, you'll feel it when you look at a phishing website. You'll feel it that there is something wrong with our website, that it is not normal to what you're used to log into. And always pay attention to these red flags. Always check the URL of such websites before logging in. Now, the first activity that we have is the social engineering activities, which is going to be happening on Nova Lab. Now, I would request all of you to follow this link. You can simply search for Nova Labs and try to go to the cybersecurity lab, and we will see what is there in this lab. So I'll just give you a brief of this lab, and you can play along. You can pause the video and after I've given you the briefing and play with this. Now what you need to understand is this game is going to help you understand all of these types of attacks that I've been asking you. So in this, you are the good guy. You are a cybersecurity expert and you're going to help your organization fight with these cyber attacks. So how you're going to do it is by some challenges that you might be put into, or some things that you have to answer to get the information out and things like that. So log into this website, go to this website and choose a guest pass so that you don't have to give your credentials or anything. So it'll ask you to choose your avatar, and I like the color blue, so I'm going to choose this. And then it'll ask you what company do you want to protect. So we have Instagram, we have Snapchat, we have WhatsApp, and we have Facebook. So let me protect WhatsApp. So I'm going to click on next, and now there is going to be a card of conversation between you and your friend Kitty, who is responsible for making this business run for you. So now he is like the person who is taking care of all the management part of the website, and you are the cybersecurity expert here. So you will have a long conversation with this kitty, and he'll tell you about how he has launched the website before telling you, and you have no cybersecurity in place, and now you have to do something to protect yourself. So this is how your organization looks. So this is the A side of it, and this is the B side of it. And you have to protect both the A side and the B side. And here, every time there is an attack, they're going to tell you there is a virus attack. So if any of your employee downloads a computer virus, it could destroy company files, steal passwords, or email spam to the company's contacts. Buy cyber defense to protect WhatsApp. Now you need to protect your company by buying cyber attack, by buying the cyber defense for your company. So how are you going to do that? This is again a tutorial which is going to tell you about how you need to protect it. You can go through it, and here is what you're going to get. So these are the three kind of defense that you can buy for your company. If you click here on the info panel, you are going to get what all kind of things that this defense pack provides. So antivirus software can prevent, detect and remove malicious computer viruses, also known as malware. Now, backup company's file. If you have backup copies of your computer files, you can replace the original files if they get damaged. And phishing email detection training for your employees. Train your staff to recognize phishing emails and do not click on attachments or links in emails from unknown senders. Now, if you see, you have 3 coins here. So you can use each coin to buy one thing. So I can buy upgrade my antivirus software, and you can see the coin count is reducing, and maybe back up my file for the A side. Now, how you get these coins is by using challenges. So I'm going to battle, since I don't have enough files right now. I'm going to battle, and so this is what happened. The results is I lost 27 users in the attack, and then it's going to tell you what you missed on. So half of your company's files were damaged by a ransomware virus from an infected website, but you can replace some of them with the backup you had. So we had some backups, so we can replace some of them with that. Then the next thing it's saying is your antivirus software was up to date, so you didn't lose any users because of that. and then it's saying that 10 of your employees were tricked into downloading computer viruses because of the phishing emails, so you lost 2 users. Now if you'll again have a conversation with Mr. Kitty and he calls you human for some reason, but it's cute, the kitty calling you human. Now what you need to do is you need to do challenges to earn these coins, and then you can use these coins to buy cybersecurity products for your company. And if you buy products for your company and if you secure your company, then the growth is going to be there. So your users are going to increase and the game just follows. So you basically have 3 challenges and you have 3 levels for these challenges. So the first one is the coding, second is the password cracking, and third is the social engineering challenge. Now I want all of you to go here and check out these challenges. The coding challenges are going to be very simple. You're basically going to hide your users data into a maze, and you need to program a robot which is able to traverse in that virtual maze and get the data out. So you'll have blocks like move forward, turn left, and all of those things. You just have to drag and drop and code. The password cracking challenge is going to be with the mole who's there in your company and leaking all your data out, and he's going to ask you to duo in a password challenge. And in the password challenge you'll understand what is the importance of a strong password and what are the ways that these bad guys can crack your passwords. So that is what's going to happen in the password cracking challenge. Now in the social engineering challenge, you're going to learn about phishing emails and phishing websites, and they are going to tell you about what are the red flags that you can find out in a particular email or in a website. If you look at them, how can you identify these? And you just have to identify these red flags and then tell which one of the two is a phishing email or which one is just a normal email or a website. You have phone calls, etc. So this is how this game works, and it's really interesting. Trust me, I've played it while I was preparing for this and I enjoyed it thoroughly, and you're going to learn a lot of things in this, so do check this out. So the next thing that we are going to be looking into, yeah, you can go on and look at the video and come back, like play the game and come back, and then after you come back we are going to look into vulnerabilities. Now till now we talked about, when we talked about cyber risk, we said that there are 3 things that make up to a cyber risk. So there is the threat, we discussed about the threat, the who, why, and how. Now we are going to talk about the vulnerabilities. Now the vulnerabilities are things that may be wrong with your system. So you can have software bugs, you can have weak access controls, you can have unencrypted data, you can have poor detection capabilities and access privileges. Now some of the common software vulnerabilities are listed here. You can go through it once and I'm going to be explaining to you a few of them in detail. So this is SQL injection. Now here the scenario is that you as a user want to reset your password. Okay, so you send your email to an application server, and then the application server connects the database with that email, finds out your username, and then sends an email to you saying that here is the link to reset your password. You might have noticed this when you're trying to reset your password on Gmail. So when you're trying to reset your password on Gmail, you can click on the forgot password icon, and that will tell you that okay, we have sent you a maybe an OTP on your mobile, just enter your OTP and change your password. So something like that happens when you're trying to change the password. If you're trying to change password for Instagram or Facebook, it'll send you a mail to your Gmail account or whatever account you're using, and then you can follow the link which is there in that email to change your password. Now, what happens with SQL injection is, rather than sending the email address, the hacker is going to send an SQL query. Now, this SQL query is going to, the application server is going to forward this SQL query to the database. Now, the database is not intelligent. Whatever you ask of it, it's going to give back that to you. So when you're sending an SQL query to the database is simply going to give you back the information. So this is a very crude way of explaining how SQL injection works. So rather than sending the actual value that you are aware of. In the first case, it was your email address. If you're aware of your email address, the application can simply retrieve your username and everything and send you an email for a reset password link and everything. But here you're not aware of these values. So you find it out by using SQL. So you just say that, okay, go to this table and find out the first 100 emails, replace everything with something of one email address or something else that is accessible to the hacker, and all the reset links are going to be sent to that particular email that is accessible to the hacker. Now the hacker is simply going to get these emails and reset your password. So this is how SQL injection works. The next is cross-site scripting or XSS. Now how does this work is the attacker is going to send you a script injected something. It can be like an email or anything which is script injected. Okay. Now there is this script that is going to run when you're going to click on it or perform some activity. So for example, you get that email and it tells you to access a particular website. You're simply going to click on that link to access that particular website, and when you click on that link, you're going to be taken to a website. Now the website may very well be legitimate, but the hacker has attached a script to it which is going to run, and that script can send all your data or whatever you're accessing on the browser then, or your emails or anything else, to the hacker. So this is how cross-site scripting works. The next thing is vulnerability hunting, aka hacking. Now I told you that vulnerabilities are simply flaws in your software. So you can use different methods to find out what flaws are there in your software, and this is where hackers come into the picture. So a hacker can simply find out the vulnerabilities in a particular software. Now there are two kinds of hackers, the white hat hackers and the black hat hackers. Now the white hat hackers are simply hackers which are good guys. Companies usually pay these people to find out vulnerabilities in their systems so they can improve on it. So these hackers are going to work ethically only when they are provided permission to hack into someone's system. They are going to hack it, find out the vulnerabilities, and if they are able to find out a vulnerability, the company pays them for it. The black hat hackers, on the other hand, access different devices without the permission of the person. They are simply going to use their power and their ability to find vulnerabilities, and then use them to attack someone. Their motto could be as simple as stealing money or stealing information to as complex as just having fun. They are just having fun trying to find out vulnerabilities and trying to hack into systems. Now, one thing that you always need to remember about hacking is that you should never hack someone's system without their permission. Hacking is illegal, and the white hat hackers who hack into people's system have permission to do so. They are trained technically into the field of hacking, and companies pay them for finding out vulnerabilities in their systems. So if you ever are interested in hacking, do not hack someone's account or someone's devices without their permission. It is illegal. So the next thing we are going to study about is the vulnerabilities database. Now, for understanding the vulnerabilities database, there are a few things that you need to understand. But if you want to look at the vulnerabilities database, you can always go to nvd.nist.gov. Now, NVD is the National Vulnerability Database, which is promoted by the government of USA, and it's regulated by them, but it's a public database that anybody can use for looking at the vulnerabilities that are there. So before we jump into the vulnerabilities, there are a few things that I would like to explain to you about them. Now see, first things first, what you need to understand is, before everything else, there is a database called Common Vulnerabilities and Exposures. Okay, now this is simply a collection of all software vulnerabilities that is known to us. Now, a software vulnerability could be as simple as using HTTP in the URL instead of HTTPS, which is a secure way of transferring data. And it could be as complex as the cross-site scripting. So The common vulnerability and exposure simply has, it is our website too, you can search for CVE. It simply has the record of all the known vulnerabilities, the publicly known vulnerabilities. This also is controlled by an organization called MITR, which is under the US government again, and MITR has some of its own things, CVE being one of it. And the national vulnerability database that we are talking about leverages all of these things that CVE has to offer, all of these vulnerability that CVE has to offer, but adds more information to it. Now, when a vulnerability is found out and is about to go into the CVE database, you have this format: the problem type in product or version causes impact when this attack is taking place. So the problem type, what is the vulnerability, where did you find it, what was the impact of it, and how did you know, or how did you reach to that vulnerability, like how did you find the vulnerability. So this is the way it is stored in the common vulnerabilities and exposure database. And more than this, it does not provide any information on it. But you need to understand, when you're talking about vulnerabilities, you need to also know what is the impact of that vulnerability. How severe can that vulnerability be? And can that vulnerability mitigate? And for doing that, we have something called as the common vulnerability scoring system. Now, this is simply a scoring system that gives a score to a vulnerability. So, this vulnerability is this harmful, or this vulnerability is okay, we can deal with it. Now, common vulnerability scoring system simply has three measures: base, temporal, and environmental. Now, base are the kind of vulnerabilities that are common. They do not depend on the user's environment or the time that they are being accessed. Temporal vulnerabilities are simply vulnerabilities that change with time, and environmental are the ones which change with the user's environment. So, if the user's environment is different, the vulnerability is going to be different. Now, when you are calculating the score for a vulnerability, the base gives it 0 to 10. 0 being okay, we can deal with it. It is a known issue and we can work with it. And 10 being there is something seriously wrong and we need to find out how we are going to protect ourselves from this vulnerability. And temporal and environmental factors just tweak the 0 to 10 scale. So the National Vulnerability Database leverages the power of CVE and CVSS. So common vulnerabilities and exposure, the vulnerabilities that have already been found out and are publicly recorded, and you give it a score and store it in NVD. So let's look at the NVD database. So here I have already searched for something. Let me quickly take you through the NVD database. So this is how it looks. So here you have something called as search. Now here you can read up on the general things, and the general things contain, like, the general information. What is the dashboard, the email list, what is frequently asked, visualizations, like we have those threat maps. The vulnerability matrices tell us about the CVSS that I talked to you about right now. So this is the CVSS calculator. Now version 2 and version 3, obviously version 3 is the latest, tell us how you are going to classify a vulnerability. So earlier it was like 0 to 3.9 it's low, then 4 to 6.9 it's medium, and then 7 to 10 it's high. But now it's divided into 5 scales. So you have none, that means 0, and low, medium, high, and critical. So this is how you're going to quantize the vulnerability, so that you know what actions and how much actions you need to take. Now, if you know about the quantization of the vulnerability, you are going to know, okay, what is at risk and what do I need to patch first? So this is how the vulnerability, the National Vulnerability Database works. So we'll simply search for some vulnerability. Let's do it. We'll do a vulnerability search and we will see what it has. So we are just going to do a basic search, and let's just search for Microsoft and see what are the things. This is like a keyword. You can search for anything. You can have Google or Kaspersky or anything. You can just search it for that and we are going to see what comes up. So the latest vulnerability that's going to come up for this is this one. A denial of service vulnerability exists in the Microsoft Azure sphere, and in version like the version 3 of CVFF, it's given a medium, and in version 2 it's given a low priority. Now see, this is something that's given a high priority. This is a code execution vulnerability. If you click on the vulnerability number, you're going to be given more information about this vulnerability. So you are going to be given more information. What are the solutions? What are the tools? Known affected software configurations. How did they receive it? So I told you, right? In the common vulnerability database, all of these things are already mentioned. How was it discovered? In which product or version was it discovered? And NVD just leverages the power of that and makes it easy for people to understand. This has an easier interface, and the quantization using CVFF makes it easy for people to understand and know what is happening. Plus it provides the data about how much risky that vulnerability is, which CVE lacks. So this is about your national vulnerability database. We are going to look at what we have next. Yeah, so how many vulnerabilities do you think are in NVD? So this is the number of vulnerabilities that are currently there. And this number just keeps growing every day. This number just keeps growing every day because now we have so many products that are there around us and everybody is connected to the internet. So it's very important that we keep track of all the vulnerabilities that we have so that we can protect ourselves properly on the internet. Now, vulnerability scanners are simply software tools that scan your computer for any viruses or worms or bugs, any malware that you may have on your system. You might be aware of McAfee and Kaspersky and Quick Heal. These are some of the common scanners that are available, but you have way more than them. And these simply scan your device or scan your network to know if there is anything that is fishy going on in your network. Now, the next thing is searching the yeah, we already did this searching the national vulnerability database. So next is UpGuard Cloud Scanner. Now this is another thing that checks for vulnerability, but it basically focuses on websites. So you can go to this website and search for vulnerabilities that might be in a particular website. So if I type I have already searched for a few. So if I search for like Google, so get my free score, it's going to tell me what is the security rating for Google. So it says that Google's score 798 out of 950 and that its score is B. Here it's going to give you the information about the company. The website that I was trying to access was by Google, the number of employees, where is it located, who is its CEO, and why does it give it such a rating. So there are some matrices, some things that they think makes a website secure. So here they're saying that there is an secure SSL or TLS version available. So all of these all of the things that we use, all the protocols that we use, they are constantly upgraded because every day we come across newer vulnerabilities, and if we want to include some patch, some fix for those vulnerabilities in our system, we need to constantly keep upgrading it. So there are a particular versions which are considered safe for a particular standard. So a standard might say that maybe version 3 and above for some product is considered to be safe because it might cover 70 to 85% of the vulnerabilities that are currently present. And so it might be safer for you to use them. So why Google has a lesser score is because it is not up to date with some of the things that this website considers to be a standard for you to have if you want to protect yourself from most of the vulnerabilities. So next I was just curious, so I searched for the same website. So I was like, okay, tell me about how much score are you going to give to yourself. So I searched for their upguard.com and I was like, how much score do you give to yourself? Now they give themselves 912 out of 950. They have all of their information here. So companies UpGuard, the number of employees, the location, the CEO. And again, here they give you a briefing of their matrix. So what are they following, right? and what are they not following right. So one of the vulnerabilities that they still have is something with their email security. So they are saying that one of the variables is quarantine, whereas if they wanted maximum protection, it should be reject. So this is one of the vulnerabilities that they have. So you can go to this website, it's called upguard.com, and search for websites that you commonly visit like Facebook, Amazon, and all of these other websites, and find out what is their vulnerability score. So that is about the UpGuard cloud scanner. Now this is the Tenable network scanner. I told you, right? We have many scanners which are available online, which we can use to scan our own systems. So this is Nessus's Tenable scanner. Now you can go to the website. It's called tenable.com, but I would highly recommend that you have parental supervision for this, because you need to have an email account, email address to access this website and download this data. On top of that, you need to have admin privileges in your computer to run it and do things with it and scan your computer with it. So get your parents along, hop on and try scanning your computer. Now, what this does is it is going to find out vulnerabilities in your own network, the device that you're using, or if you have a local area network, you can download it and check it out. It's going to help you find out the vulnerabilities in your own network. So this is one vulnerability scanner that you can use and discover what are the vulnerabilities in your home network. Now, till now we talked about a lot of things. We talked about all the threats we have and all the vulnerabilities and who can attack us and how they can attack us and how many bad guys are present on the internet. And this is very scary. This is very scary because you can't trust anything. You can't trust anything, and you don't know who might be sitting where to attack your devices. So how can you protect yourself from stuff like this? So for that, you need to understand that when you talk about protecting things, what are you trying to say? So for that, there is something called as the CIA triad. Now this triad tells you about what you mean by protecting your data. When you're telling that you want to protect your data should always be confidential. You should not give access to everything to everyone. There should be a strong access control on your data. Only people who are allowed to access a particular kind of data, who need to work with that kind of data, should be given access to it. As much as possible, try giving lesser and lesser access to your data. This is going to be very helpful in things like SQL injection. Now, if somebody is trying to send an SQL query to your database without your permission, or an API call without your permission, if you have designed your database in a way that there are only a particular people who are privileged and have keys that can access the database directly, you are not going to fall prey to such kind of an attack. So you need to make sure that your data is confidential and only people who need to work with that data are given access to it. Next thing that you need to work on is integrity. Now, what do you mean by integrity is that your data should not be tampered with. Never. There should be this belief that if your data has been there, it is not tampered by anyone else. People who are not allowed to tamper your data should never be given access to your data, and they should not have the permission to write on it. Okay? The last thing is availability. So no matter how difficult it might be, if you are having a blackout or if you are having a shutdown or maybe you've been attacked, you need to make sure that you're always available to your customers. The more time you're unavailable, the more you're going to have business loss. So availability means that your data should be accessible from anywhere to whoever it may concern. So confidentiality, that you are providing the access to data only to people who need to work with it. Integrity, you are not letting just someone write on it. There is some that your data is not tempered. And availability, that from anywhere your data should be accessible securely. So security controls, aka countermeasures that you can take to protect your data. When you're talking about, like when you are talking about all of these three things that you need to do with your data, you need to make it confidential, you need to make it integrated, you need to make it accessible. you can take three measures. One is preventive. Preventive is something that happens before the attack has occurred. So before someone can attack your system, you can take preventive measures. Now, preventive measures would be something like not allowing everyone to access your data, not allowing anyone to write on your data. Detective, if something has happened, how are you going to detect it? What if somebody sneakily came into your data warehouse and took your data and went? How are you going to detect it? They might leave some clues, some breadcrumbs behind. So you need to be able to detect any attack that happens on you. And then corrective. After the attack has happened and your data has been compromised, what are you going to do to correct it? Now, you can do many things like, make sure that all the people whose data has been breached are informed, or some measure is taken so that those accounts are not accessed right now and people are informed, the right people are informed about it. So that is the corrective measures that you can take. So preventive, before the attack. Detective, if the attack has happened, how do you detect it? And corrective, if the attack has happened, how do you proceed in the future? Now, NIST Cybersecurity Framework. Now, this is a framework that people are suggested to follow not just in an organizational level, but in our devices also. This framework is made up of something called as functions and then subcategories and then categories and subcategories and things like that. Now, the functions are basically broad things that you need to do to protect your system. Now they consist of things like identify your vulnerabilities. So this is like a broad way of explaining that: identify your vulnerabilities, protect your data, detect whenever an attack is made, respond quickly to that attack, and then recover from an attack. But these have subcategories. So when I say identify your vulnerabilities, what do I mean by that? What is the exact thing that I need to do to identify my vulnerabilities? I need to manage my assets properly. I need to see what all do I need to protect. I need to protect my hardware components. I need to protect my software components. I need to protect my data. I need to protect my employees' confidentiality, my customers' confidentiality. And these are the steps that I need to actually physically take to identify my vulnerabilities. These are the things I need to protect. So, like, okay, so this is what I need to do, this is what I need to do, this is what I need to do to identify my vulnerability. Now, for protecting, one example straight up is access control. Access control means that only an administrator should be allowed to access everything. Other people might have view permission, but they cannot write on it. So have such access control in place so that not everyone can easily access your data. Detect anomalies and event. If a cyber attack is happening on you, there might be something that happens. For example, imagine if somebody is trying to crack your password. You must have noticed that if you enter your password wrong 3 to 5 times, mostly in most of the device is locked for a little while. And some devices even send email to the receiver saying that somebody tried to access your account. Was it you? So now these kind of things are how you detect an attack. So now it might just be you, right? And you might have just forgotten your password. And so you're typing it, but you're not getting it. But the system is very intelligent. It detected that somebody is trying to enter the password again and again. And if it was the person who had control over this device, he would know the password and he would not have to enter it so many times. So if somebody is trying to enter the password so many times, maybe there is an attack happening on the system. Respond. So as soon as you understand that there is something wrong, there is someone who's attacking your system, you need to respond. So how do you respond? You analyze the situation. You analyze what went wrong, how it went wrong, what are the systems that are affected, and what can I do immediately to take care of these. Now these things just don't happen in a whiff. So if you're undergoing a cyber attack right now, you cannot decide right now what is going to happen, how you're going to respond to it. These are some plans that you need to sit and make sure you write down, make sure you research on before you get your system up and running. So if something happens to your system, you always have a plan in place and you can just follow it and take care of whatever is happening right now when your account has been disrupted. Now the last thing is recover. This also requires a lot of planning. If an attack has happened to your system and some files have been compromised, you need to know what was the effect that those files held in your system. How much damage could they cause to you, or if it is an organization, to an organization, if these files were in the hand of a wrong person. So you need to understand and analyze all of these things beforehand. So respond and recovery require a lot of planning, and that planning needs to be done way before you are under a cyber attack. And once you are going through a cyber attack, or you have come out of one, you should always follow your plan. Always follow your plan, and always make sure that you're able to have the least amount of damage possible to other systems that are there in your network. Now, this is the CIS top 20 critical security control. Now, what you need to understand in this, they tell you practices that you need to follow to secure your data, to secure your network and stuff like that. So from 1 to 6, it's like basic. Everybody can follow it. So like inventory or authorization and unauthorized softwares. So do not download something that your Windows thinks that is not good for your system, that the Windows is trying to tell you that it might cause harm to your computer, or it might not be good for your computer. Do not try to download such things. Always secure your configuration in the hardware. Like, don't just like leave gates open for people to walk in. Always keep them secure. So 1 to 6 are like basic, 7 to 16 are like fundamental, and 17 to 20 are organizational. So organizations need to follow from 17 to 20. So these are basically security control things that you can do to protect yourself, like what all you can do, like what all you need to think of when you're thinking of protecting yourself and your system. So you can just go through it. The names are self-explanatory, and we can move forward. Now, this is the Australian Cybersecurity Center's Essential 8. Now, what they say you need to do when you're trying to, protect your system. Always do a application whitelisting. So only accept or download or run applications which have been whitelisted, which have been tested, and you are sure that these applications are not going to cause a harm to your device. Patch applications. Whenever there is a patch that comes up, we are very lazy. We don't want to update any application. But whenever a patch comes up, you should always remember that patches are only released because there might be something that's not working in your system, or there might be a vulnerability that has been discovered, and this patch might help fix it. So never, 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 never shy away from patches. Never become lazy. Always patch your applications. Configure the macro settings. Use application hardening. Restrict administrative privileges to everything. Don't let everyone access everything on your computer. Have administrative privileges. Patch your operating system. Just like how you need to patch your applications, you need to patch your operating system also for newer vulnerabilities and things like that. Have multi-factor authentication, which we are going to talk about, and back up your data daily, so that even if there is a breach, even if somebody corrupts all your files, you're going to have a backup with you so that you can recover quickly. Now, what are the things that you can do to protect yourself? Be aware. Think before you click. Whenever I told you, phishing is the best example for this. Phishing websites work on this thing that humans have in their head, that if it looks similar, it's the same. But no, it does not need to look similar for it to be the same. You have to check the URLs. You have to check what are you clicking on. So always think before you click. Passwords. Use complex passwords to protect your data. Don't use things like your name, your birth city, or your parents' name, or your pet's name, or your birth date. These are very easily guessable passwords. And if you have done that Nova Lab activity yet, you might be aware how easy these passwords are to guess. And in the dictionary attacks, they explain how you can guess these passwords very easily. Protect your privacy. Don't share your password, and always use privacy settings on whichever application you're using. For example, when you're using Instagram, always make your account private. Only allow people who you follow to let who you follow and who follow you to see your data. Don't share it with everyone. Don't share your password with anyone. Your email or other applications that you log into, don't share them with anyone. Keep your passwords to yourself. The next thing you can do is security tool. Install antivirus detectors, scanners on your computers and devices which are going to check for vulnerabilities in your system and warn you before you access maybe infected emails or infected websites. They are going to block your access to that and ask you if you really want to go there. They are going to look into the vulnerabilities for you so you can browse the internet safely and you can work on your devices and on your network safely. Updates. Always install security updates. These patches, we may feel like we are lazy and we do not want to update our system, but these patches are a lifesaver. Patches are usually sent out only because there was a vulnerability. That is why you get a security update. So every time you get a security update, there has been someone who has found out a vulnerability and someone like me has helped develop this patch for you. So always patch up your operating system, patch up your applications so that you're always safe and up to date with all the vulnerabilities that are known in that system and you don't fall prey to these attackers. Backups. Always back up your data, but back up your data securely. Keep your backup secure. Don't let everybody access your backup and don't let anybody write on your backup. So back up your data so that even if you might be attacked by someone and you might have to recover after the attack, you have the data with you. So your data is never lost. Now we are going to do a fun activity. I told you about all these things you can do, right? And I told you about how you can make a very secure password. So one of the way for making a secure password is a passphrase. Now I don't know how many of you have watched the Disney movie Aladdin, but in that the cave always says only one may enter here, one whose worth lies far within, the diamond in the rough. So a passphrase is something like this, which is just narrowed down into a fewer letters and then added stuff into to make it secure. Now how that works is like this. So example, my name is Il and I love to use Instagram. This is the passphrase that I have, very similar to only one may enter here, one whose worth lies far within, the diamond in the rough. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take the first letter of each of these words. So M, then N, then I, then A, then I, then L, sorry, it's a J, then A, then I, then L, then T, U, I, and the last letter of M. Now I have this. What I'm going to do to make it more secure is put some uppercase letters. So I made this an uppercase letter. Now what you need to understand is this passphrase that you're using needs to be something that you remember easily. So my name is Jill and I love to use Instagram is something that you can always remember. You just need to put it together in your head. The first letter of each of the words and then add some letters which are uppercase. So M and J is uppercase now. And then add some letters. Instead of T, they added a 2 because 2 sounds similar to T. And you can even add special characters and things like that to make your password more secure. Now this is so random that it will take a lot of time for someone to guess a password like this. But it is, even after being that random, very easy for you to remember because you know your passphrase. So now I want you people to come up with a passphrase for your own accounts. But remember one thing, do not use the same password for all your accounts. It's a very bad practice because imagine if someone hacks into one of your accounts, then they know the password to all the rest of your accounts. This is a common practice in these bad guys that if they come to know about one password, they try to use that password to access all your accounts because most of the times people don't change their passwords. People use the same kind of password for most of their accounts. So if you want to protect yourself from the bad guys, make a password out of a passphrase and use different passwords for different devices and do not forget your password. Now, Instagram privacy setting is something else I want to talk about with all of you. Now, most of you must be using internet and most of your accounts, I hope, are private. But the people who don't have a private account, how you can make your account private is by clicking on these three dots. Now, Don't look at the UI of Instagram right now. It might be different for different devices, but the settings always remain the same. If you go to the settings, you'll have a privacy tab. In the privacy tab, you need to make your account private. This will allow only people you want to see your data, to see your photos, to see your videos, to see your reels and everything else, and nobody else can look at them. So always keep your accounts private. Always limit the access to your personal information to the world. Make your accounts private and only allow your friends and family members to access your accounts. Like access in the sense, be able to view them. Don't give them out passwords, please. Be able to view them. Be able to, somebody who is able to text you. This is going to save you from a lot of people like cyber stalkers, cyber bullies, catfishes. You are going to be safe from all of these people if you just use these basic preventive measures. Make your account private. Now, the last thing we are going to talk about in today's webinar is about two-factor authentication. Now, what is two-factor authentication, as I have written here, is what you know and what you have. Now, usually we use passwords for entering into our accounts. But what if our password is hacked? What if our password is hacked? Then the user can easily access our account. With two-factor authentication, that can be avoided. How two-factor authentication works is that what you know is your password, right? You know your password, so you enter your password. But there is going to be one more step for logging in, and that usually is something like an OTP. What you have. Now, what you have is your mobile phone. So if you enter your password and try to log into a website, it's going to ask you for an OTP that it has sent to your phone, the phone you have. Now, if there was someone who was trying to log into your account, he will not have your phone. So he will never be able to log into your account because you would not get the right OTP. This protects you. Now, this have can be anything. It can even be biometric. Put a password and give your fingerprint. It could even be something else like a token, a token or anything that you have with you, that is with you, and nobody else can have it. And what you know is a password. So a intruder might be able to know your password, but he's never going to have what you have. So always try to remember this one thing, that you have to make yourself safe on the internet by following all of these practices. Now we are coming to the end of this video, and if you want to have the certificate of completion for this video, do check out the link and fill in the survey and give your feedback. It's going to help us a lot in developing more content for you girls and getting more things out for you people, so that you can benefit. And I hope that you learned a lot of things in today's video, and I hope that you learned how to fight the bad guys on the network and how you can protect yourself. And I hope you girls are going to research more on this field and try to learn more about these things and follow these practices in your daily lives. Follow these practices, make strong passwords, do not share your passwords with anyone, make your accounts private, install softwares which are going to help you in scanning your computer for vulnerabilities, and keep yourself safe on the internet, because the internet is a thing that is going to provide you with a lot of information, and we don't want that to go away. We want it to be like that. So keep yourself safe, keep yourself secure, and always remember that if you want to do something, anything is possible. So keep learning and keep developing. Thank you very much.